show, episode 22 of the Tool Bags of Sports podcast. I'm your host, Sebastian Caballero, and as you can tell, not really dressed up, really don't give a fuck, because today is a very exciting day. Been working hard to get this to you. My 2020 NFL mock draft coming to you today. As you guys know, the NFL draft is this weekend. NFL draft starts on Thursday. We went over the NFL draft Dolphins edition yesterday with Ralphie, Andy, and Robert. But today I'm going to give you my personal NFL draft for all 32 teams selecting. Well, some teams are selecting more than once, but the 32 picks, I'm giving you the first round mock draft. And here we go. Let's get it started. Very simple. I'm going to spend a short amount of time with some picks, and then I'm going to spend a little bit more time with some other picks, the ones that I think that are most important. We're going to start with number one. With the first pick of the NFL draft, the Cincinnati Bengals are going to take quarterback Joe Burrow from LSU. It's pretty much set in stone right now. Not a pick that I agree with at all. I think that the Cincinnati Bengals have way too many holes on their team, and especially when you have teams like the Dolphins offering you 14 picks, not what I would do. I think that pick, unless it's Andrew Luck, unless it's Peyton Manning, unless it's a stud, there's no reason for you to pick that, because the quarterback cannot do it himself. Joe Burrow is going to struggle, especially early on there in Cincinnati. But that's who they're taking. They're taking their Ohio kid. He's going number one. At number two, a guy from the Ohio State University, defensive end Chase Young, probably the best player in this draft. A lot of people are comparing him to Nick Bosa. You saw the effect that Nick Bosa was able to have for the 49ers. And if he's anything close to that, if he is Nick Bosa, man, the Washington defensive front is going to be insane. You add the fact that Ron Rivera, one of the best defensive coaches, just took that head coaching position there in Washington. Look out for the Redskins. At number three, here's where it gets interesting. So at number three, the Lions. This is the Lions pick. But as we all know, there are two teams here fighting for quarterbacks, and that's the Miami Dolphins and the Los Angeles Chargers. And between the two, this is my prediction. This is who I think is going for them, and here's why. Okay, the Chargers will be trading up for the number three pick. The Chargers are ready to win right now. They can't afford to bomb on this first round pick. So if they were to, for example, wait back and see who the Dolphins take, whether it be Justin Herbert or Tua, if they miss, that's a huge missed opportunity there for the Chargers. I don't think they're going to risk it. I think they got their guy. Okay. The Lions are looking for some corners, and if any team has an excess of corners, it's the Chargers. They could easily swap the third and the sixth pick right there. The Chargers are going to trade up and take Justin Herbert. And again, the Dolphins have that luxury that they don't need their quarterback, whoever it is that they draft, to start right away, whether it's Herbert or whether it's Tua. So I don't think they're in the position where, like, you know, yeah, we got to go out and get our guy. We have to go out and get our guy. No, your guy's going to be there. You're going to have Fitzpatrick there to groom him. I don't think there's any rush for the Dolphins to trade up, so that's why I think the Chargers are going to move up and go and grab him to ensure that they get their guy. For the Dolphins, I think they're happy with either Herbert or Tua. At number four, best athlete in the draft, Isaiah Simmons, He's going to the Giants. The Giants defense, horrible defensively, horrible tackling last year. Isaiah Simmons should provide a much improved Giants defense. Will provide a lot more for an improved Giants defense next year, and new head coach Joe Judge. At number five, like I said before, the Dolphins are not in that big of a hurry to draft a quarterback, and they're going to end up getting their guy. They also have a chance to gamble here. If he doesn't pan out, you still have two other first-round picks. But at least if you hit, his ceiling is high enough that it'll be a successful draft, and that is Tua Tagovailoa. Tua Tagovailoa. I gotta know how to say that name. We're taking Tua, baby. We tanked for Tua. We're taking Tua, as my man Ralphie Jordan said yesterday. At number 6, now I know everybody expects Jeff Okudah to go to the Lions, but in that trade with the Chargers, remember, they acquired a corner, so they no longer need him. I'm going to send defensive tackle Derrick Brown over to the Lions to help out that defensive front. Derrick Brown, which seems to be like the guy that's getting a lot of, momentum here as we approach the draft. He'll go to the Lions. Jeff Okudah will drop down to number 7 to the Panthers, who are also rebuilding. I think that would be a great piece for their defense. On to the 8 through 10 picks. This is where offensive linemen start making an appearance. And these could really go either way, but this is the way I lined them up. At number 8 for the Cardinals, Jedrick Wilson Jr. from Bama. Bama top 5 in sacks allowed, in fewest sacks allowed. Then you got Tristan Wirfs from Iowa. Iowa known to have really great offensive linemen. Those guys are corn-fed, cornbread, whatever it is that the Iowa saying is. For those of you guys that know, I lived in Iowa for a couple of years. And it could be a great addition to the Jaguars. Now, let me actually stop here with the Jags. So many people assume that they're looking for different things. They're looking for everything, right? So I don't think that they would draft Jordan Love here. They have come out and said that they're willing to give quarterback Gardner Minshew an opportunity here to be the starting quarterback for them. We'll see how that pans out. That's why I don't think they're going to take one here. So I think they're going to build around the quarterback, see if that will help him. But first, you got to get him protection and maybe get, Leonard Fournette, upgrade on that offensive line, get him a couple more, get him some more yardage. So I'm going Tristan Wirfs there. And then Andrew Thomas, who's one of the 3 players in this draft that I love, offensive tackle from Georgia. Got to get Baker Mayfield some protection. Andrew Thomas is going to be that guy. And then at number 11, I hate to say this because he's that talented, but Jerry Jeudy going to the New York Jets. The Jets receiving corps is horrendous. You got to get Sam Darnold some help, and this is the guy. He is going to get him some help. People are comparing him a lot to Calvin Ridley, and I know that Calvin Ridley doesn't seem like quite a name, but remember, he is on the same team as Julio Jones. If he's anything close to Calvin Ridley, that's going to be a solid number 1 weapon for Sam Darnold. Let's look at the first 11 picks of the draft. As you can see, Burrow, Young, Herbert, Simmons, Tua, Derrick Brown, Okudah, Willis Jr., Wirfs, Andrew Thomas, and Jerry Jeudy. Those are your first 11 picks. Now, here is where it gets funny. This is where it gets fun, actually. The 12 through 22 picks. Let's start off with the number 12 pick. Now, the Raiders they need a receiver, right? But I just don't see CeeDee Lamb being that fit there. And there's so many good receivers in this draft that I don't see the point of rushing. So they're going to build up on their other needs. And here is where they take cornerback CJ Henderson from the University of Florida. Now, Henderson isn't Jeff Okudah, but he's a pretty damn good corner. Led the way for a very solid defensive Florida defense last season. So I think that's going to be a great pickup for the Raiders. Of course, they need to find guys that are going to be able to cover the Kansas City Chiefs receivers. Now on to the number 13 pick. So there's been rumors now that the 49ers are looking to move from that number 13 spot. And there's a team that's looking to trade up to grab a guy that we mentioned earlier, CeeDee Lamb. And I think it's a perfect matchup. I think it's a great move. 49ers might be looking to move up, but I think their best move is actually to move back. And this team is also in perfect position for them to draft the guy that I think is a perfect fit for the Niners. The Philadelphia Eagles will trade up to the number 13 spot. They will switch spots with the 49ers. The 49ers will slide down to the 21st spot. And with the 13th pick in the first round, the Philadelphia Eagles will select a wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb. Now imagine that weapon for Carson Wentz, okay? One of the problems that the Eagles had is that they couldn't throw the fucking ball downfield because they had nobody. None of their receivers were able to stay healthy. CeeDee Lamb needs a great quarterback in order to succeed here in the NFL. And what better quarterback than Carson Wentz? CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver from Oklahoma to the Philadelphia Eagles. On to the next pick, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 14. I mean, what else do they need, right? Like, they have a stacked team right now, and they got the jewel of the offseason, which was Tom Brady. You got to find a way to protect them. Their offensive line's a little shaky, so you know they're going offensive line first round. I'm going to give them the guy from Louisville, Mekhi Becton. I think that's his name. I think Louisville, for whatever reason, has like these weird players that they always have a first rounder, right? Like, they weren't as good last year, but they run a very dynamic offense. That lets you know this kid's a little bit of an athlete, and I think he goes at 14. Don't be surprised if they go with Josh Jones, who I have going a little bit later on. If they take Josh Jones from Houston at 14. Let's move on here to picks 15, 16, and 17. It gets a little bit interesting here, right? So at 15, the Broncos loaded on defense. You saw what they did towards the end of last year. They ended up 7-9. But this team is on the rise. I think they found their quarterback with Drew Lock. Now we got to get some pieces around him to go along with Cortland Sutton. We got to get him another weapon, and I think that weapon is not going to be Henry Ruggs. I think it's going to be the LSU wide receiver Justin Jefferson going at 15 to the Broncos. 16 and 17. These are two teams that struggle to go get after the quarterback, the Falcons and the Cowboys, so I think they're going to address that. This pick for the Falcons at 16 is going to be a steal with Javon Kinley from South Carolina. Dude is a monster. And I think just the fact that other teams need to fill out other needs is going to allow Kinley to slide down to 16 for the Falcons. And then at 17, the Cowboys couldn't touch the quarterback, couldn't put pressure on the quarterback. It's part of the reason why they struggled last year. So I'm going to give them defensive end from LSU, Clavon Chasen. I believe that's how it's pronounced. Clavon Chasen. That's what I'm going with. On to 18. Now the Dolphins are picking again. This was part of the Minkah Fitzpatrick trade that they made with the Steelers. They drafted Tua. Obviously, injury concerns for Tua, so you got to find a way to protect them. This is where we're going to take Josh Jones, offensive tackle from Houston. Got to protect the quarterback, got to protect Tua. 19, this one is the shocking pick of the draft. This is the one that's going to shock you all. So, at 19, the Las Vegas Raiders have this pick. They are not going to use it. They are not going to use it. The Raiders need a wide receiver, but there's going to be a wide receiver that best fits their system later on in the draft. And now there is a team that's going to need to beat the Jaguars for the fourth quarterback taken in this division. Now, I said the Jaguars are going to try to give Gardner Minshew an opportunity to win that starting role and be their QB. But if this guy is there with the at 20 in the first round, you already got your first round pick. Why not gamble it? Get your quarterback of the future. So somebody's going to need to jump the Jaguars. And although most quarterback slots are filled, Jordan Love is going to be a project. He's going to need to be a backup, and he's going to have to go to a team that has a quarterback that's on its way out. There are two teams that I could think of. Number one is the Green Bay Packers, but I don't think that they're willing to trade up as much, especially because Aaron Rodgers still has about 5, 6, 7 years left. The team that he's going to go to and the team that's going to trade up will be the New Orleans Saints. They will switch their number 24 pick with the Raiders. They will be drafting Jordan Love, quarterback from Utah State, at 19. That will be Drew Brees' replacement. So there you go. Drew Brees, he signed a 2-year extension. I don't see him playing past 2 years. They need their quarterback of the future now that Teddy Bridgewater is gone. I don't think Taysom Hill is the answer. So Jordan Love to the Saints. At 22 now, the Jaguars, missed out on their quarterback. I don't think they're going to stress that. Again, they got to build pieces around. They took an offensive tackle in the first round, a very good one, by the way. So they're going to take a corner here, AJ Terrell. Not sure how he pronounces it. I'm going to go with Terrell. AJ Terrell. I think just T.O. is the one guy that names it Terrell. AJ Terrell, corner from Clemson, goes to Jacksonville at number 20. Now the San Francisco 49ers, who traded back down. They traded with the Philadelphia Eagles. Here's the guy that they're getting. They lost Emmanuel Sanders, so they need a deep threat. They're going to take wide receiver from Bama, Henry Ruggs III. I think that's a great matchup there. The Vikings lost some key pieces on the defensive side, and they're going to take this stud. Don't be surprised if he's a Pro Bowler year one. Yetur Gross-Matos from Penn State going to the Vikings at 22. Dude's a monster. Now, they could take either one of these guys, either Gross-Matos or the defensive end that the Patriots are going to take. This is another guy that I love, that I'm huge on. But before we go there, let's look at the second part of this mock draft. Picks 12 through 22, as you guys can see. C.J. Henderson to the Raiders, C.D. Lamb to the Eagles, Mekhi Becton to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, wide receiver Justin Jefferson to the Broncos, defensive tackle Javon Kinley to the Falcons, defensive end Lavon Chasen to the Cowboys, offensive tackle Josh Jones to the Dolphins, quarterback Jordan Love, Drew Brees is a replacement to the New Orleans Saints. The Jaguars will take AJ Terrell with the number 20 pick. Henry Ruggs III going to the 49ers with the 21st pick. And with the 22nd pick, the Vikings will take Yetur Gross-Matos. Now let's head on to the next pick. At 23, the Patriots. You know they're going defense. It's not like Belichick to go out and draft offensive players, especially when the wide receiver draft is so wide. There's so many guys, especially inside the top 100 players. There's so many wide receivers ranked there. So they're going to go with defensive end from Iowa, AJ Epinesa. That dude is going to be a monster. Mark my words. I said it yesterday on the podcast, and I'm saying it today. At 24, Raiders, remember, they're looking for a wide receiver. What's his name? Terrell Williams cannot be your number one receiver. Okay, they have some other pieces. They got Waller the Baller, Darren Waller, who was a steal of last year's fantasy draft. And I think that they need to add a receiver here. The draft picks that they hit last year, if you notice it, they took guys from winning programs. They took studs, like they took Clelin Ferrell in the first round. So it lets me know that they want a receiver that comes from a winning program. And what better program? They like Clemson guys, okay? They do. And I'm going to take wide receiver T. Higgins there for the Raiders. T. Higgins, who was supposed to be like a stud coming into this draft, a very coveted wide receiver. But it's just so deep. No surprise that he falls here to the Raiders in the first round. So the Raiders addressing wide receiver and addressing corner. Watch out for the Las Vegas Raiders here in a couple years. If they can figure out their quarterback situation, they're going to be very dangerous. Now the Vikings. I know that the Vikings, all these mock drafts have the Vikings taking a wide receiver. I just don't see it, man. And I'm going to tell you for two reasons, okay? There's, again, a shit ton of wide receivers in this draft. But also the last time that they went with a wide receiver in the first round, which was Laquan Treadwell, it didn't pan out so well. So I don't think they're going to invest so much, and they still have a ton of weapons. They drafted Irv Smith Jr. a couple years ago. I think that a wide receiver is easily replaceable. I think Stephon Diggs is going to be easily replaceable. So I think they're going to go with the offensive line. They like to run the ball, and you need an offensive tackle that comes from a power running team. And this guy did it. You saw how good Boise State was this year. They like to pound the football. And Ezra Cleveland, offensive tackle, had an outstanding year this year. Look for the Vikings to take him to bump up that offensive line and create some more holes for running back Dalvin Cook. At 26, the third and final first-round pick for the Dolphins. I'm not sure if this guy's going to fall because I think he's super talented. But if he's there and we're able to draft the 3 guys that we have, man, what a draft for the Dolphins. I see the Dolphins. We let go of Rashad Jones in the offseason. We need help in our secondary. Let's take Xavier McKinney from Bama. And the funny thing about this one, we traded away Minkah Fitzpatrick, Alabama safety, to the Steelers, and we acquired all these picks, and now we're taking another Alabama safety, which I think would be just a win-win for the Dolphins, man. What a great draft. What great moves by the Dolphins front office. Seattle Seahawks. So the Seahawks interior offensive line needs major help. I know a lot of a lot of mock drafts have them taking a defensive tackle, a defensive end, upgrading that defensive line. Let's be honest, okay? Jadeveon Clowney's going back to Seattle. Like, he has no options. You might as well go back to the team that you're familiar with. Go back for a year and just drive up your stock, man. Drive up your stock. I don't think they're going to waste a pick on a defensive end. Here's where I think they go with a center. They're going to draft Michigan center Cesar Ruiz at 27. At 28, the Baltimore Ravens, they don't have many holes, but they could use an upgrade and at the linebacker position. Zach Braun from Wisconsin. If Wisconsin has any type of dudes is on defense, this dude was a fucking monster. Led a very good defensive Wisconsin team last year. He goes to the Ravens at 28. 29 and 30. Both of these teams, I see them taking corners, the Titans and the Packers. I don't see the Packers taking a wide receiver, only because, again, the draft is so, wide. And part of the reason that they got eliminated last year was because their secondary wasn't as stacked as they wanted to. So I think they take a corner. You could flip-flop these guys, Trevon Diggs and Christian Fulton from LSU. Trevon Diggs from Alabama. I have Trevon Diggs from Alabama going to the Titans, and I have Christian Fulton from LSU going to the Packers at 29 and 30. The last 2 picks, I have the 49ers, their second first-round pick. They said that they wanted to trade back, but I think if this guy's there, they're going to take him. Marlon Davidson, defensive end from Auburn. That Auburn defensive line is ridiculous. I think that if you put him next to Nick Bosa, holy shit. Not to mention they let go of DeForest Buckner. That would be a great replacement, a cheaper replacement for DeForest Buckner. That defensive line is going to be stacked again next year. And for the Chiefs, I wanted to go defense, but the one position where I think they can, if they nail this, if they get that featured back, man, they're going to be tough to stop next year. And there's one running back that I love, but this guy's the more of the complete package, and I think he would fit Kansas City's offense better, and that's DeAndre Swift from Georgia. He is the number 32 pick and the last pick of the first round, and that is my predictions. That is my 2020 mock draft. I would love to know what you guys think of that. I mean, I spent a lot of time on this. It was my first time doing a mock draft, to be honest, but I feel really, really good about this. We had 3 trades. We had 4 quarterbacks taken, bunch of offensive linemen, I believe 5 wide receivers. So I think it's pretty accurate. Most mock drafts, they don't have trades, or if they do, maybe they have 1 or 2. I try to make it as realistic as possible, and I did it based off of teams that have said that they wanted to move up or down or looking to trade, or, so this is pretty good to me. I don't know. I want to know what you guys think. This podcast, of course, will be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe and like on all of those platforms. Man, I'm running out of breath. I need a drink. Jesus. NFL draft, of course, is Thursday night. Really excited to see what the Dolphins are able to do. Really excited to see where a lot of these players go, man. I was a fan of a lot of these guys in college, but we will see. That's all from me. Until next time, I'm signing.